Good afternoon to everyone. Welcome once again to Music as Sanctuary at St. Andrew's Church. Lovely to see everybody today on this early spring day. It's still early, so I think if we're patient, we're going to end up with good weather eventually. What a pleasure today to have Carla Klassen with us. Carla was part of our series last year and gave a very, very popular presentation. Carla's a great authority on hymns, hymnology, and will be delighting us with some commentary and some background on these hymns. So an important piece of equipment for this afternoon is this. It's not a conventional program that we normally have, but we thought we'd dispense with that so that we could have all of these hymn lyrics available for everybody. And you'll be inviting people to sing, I assume. We'll see how it goes, okay? So you can sing in your hearts, if not with your voices. It's always great to lift up the fantastic tradition of hymn singing in any Christian congregation. Certainly in the Presbyterian Church, hymn singing is very, very much a part of the congregation's life and worship cycle, and it's wonderful to feature these hymns today in this program. After the concert, we always feature a homemade soup. Today is no different. This one has, I didn't actually pick up the title of the soup, but it's being made even as we speak. It's got beets and potatoes in it, so those are two awesome things. And very, very robust as well, very, very colorful. That's all free for you to partake in at the end of the concert through this exit door, along the hallway to the right into the curry room, and we look forward to welcoming you there at the conclusion of the concert. Next week is our final concert in this particular segment of the series, and it will feature composer and pianist Andrew Ager and violinist Ralitza Cholakova. Andrew will be, well, I should say both of them will be premiering a piece of Andrew's next week, his new concerto for violin, which is going to be premiered orchestrally in Paraguay later this year. Andrew is also off to Moscow, God willing, in May to be present at the premiere of one of his pieces for string orchestra. So you can wish him well next Tuesday if you're here for that. And then we'll be taking just a brief break for the rest of April and through Easter week, and we'll be back in action the first Tuesday in May. So thank you once again for being here. It's always lovely to welcome friends old and friends new to this series. Please join me in welcoming Carla.
Thank you, Matthew. As some of you may know, back in 2014, I spent a year working on hymns, challenging myself to think about and arrange for piano a different hymn each week, and then share those thoughts on a blog. In 2022, that first year of song was published by Pandora Press as a book called These Songs We Sing, Reflections on the Hymns We Have Loved, which a year ago I think I did some of those here. While I only intended to do this for 1 year, these hymns kept calling me, and I continued to look at this wealthy resource long after that initial year was over. In these songs, I find myself drawn to music and words that both inspire and confound, but somehow manage to carry us through life's varied moments. These hymns can offer ways to understand and explore the good, the bad, and the in-between in our lives, with their words helping us to face and address the many challenges of our evolving experience as human beings. They offer insights, sometimes obvious, other times requiring a bit of digging. Insights that I think we probably need. When the opportunity arose to compile a second volume of these songs, it was the idea of considering how these hymns can speak to our day-to-day concerns and subsequently help guide us that appealed to me. And so a second volume called Living Our Hymns came to be. Words and music that through our actions, thoughts, perspectives, and vision become alive and illuminate the paths we travel. These hymns have been shared and sung by millions across the seas and through swathes of time. It is in these age-old texts that I look for wisdom. It is in the loveliness of the notes that we attempt to fill our spaces with beauty. Like the idea that Jesus should be viewed as an example of the power of kindness, an example of how we should treat both other people and ourselves. Perhaps you have another figure who provides you with that example, be it religious or otherwise. Find that example. We need those examples. I read the words in I Want Jesus to Walk With Me and think we are in trouble, and we all need someone to walk with us. We are in trouble, and we all need to walk with someone else. Wherever we find ourselves, we are on one or the other side of this equation, sometimes both. My desire for this collection of songs is to walk with you, and in doing so, encourage you to walk with others. Whether our hearts are breaking or heads are bowed in sorrow, or we are jubilant with celebration and gratitude, we can still walk together. We can walk in kindness. We can walk for the good of all. At the beginning of a new year, new season, or new chapter in one's life, we often look back and see a mixed bag of good and bad, excitement and disappointment. These moments of beginning allow us to start fresh and to think about approaching life with a renewed vision. The hymn, Lord, Speak to Me, reminded me of that possibility. I found it in the Faith Journey section of my hymnal under the heading Regeneration. The words of this hymn are about finding a means of regeneration, seeking inspiration in our lives. What I find powerful is that each of the things the poet seeks is about what she will then give. Speak to me that I may speak. Lead me that I may lead. Feed me that I may feed. Strengthen me that I may offer a hand. Teach me that I may teach. It is this desire to receive in order to give that I find inspiring. It is this way of seeking that flows through us to others, from whatever inspires us, that is interesting and so very useful when we seek to regenerate and move positively in our worlds. In April of 2020, in the early days of the pandemic, most of us were facing many day-to-day losses. We were worrying about canceled plans, non-existent jobs, lack of activities, an end to education, shortages of supplies, and financial security. And we had concerns about health risks and the health of those we knew and those we didn't. It was difficult to avoid these worries. They were all around us. They were being reported in the news and on social media in an overwhelmingly constant manner. At the time, I can remember thinking that it was important to consider what remained, those things that sustain in superficial and deep ways, and those things that are our treasures. A lot of us had many things to be thankful for. Despite the circumstances at that time, with the corresponding worries, panic, and fear, as one friend told me, as long as they had a roof, food, and the love of their family, they were doing okay. When we whittle things down to the basics, it is possible to hang on. These kinds of treasures are not so difficult to find if we are willing to look. What I particularly like about the words found in I've Got Peace Like a River is the deep truth that much of what we treasure, especially when all else seems to have failed, is what we can find within. The peace, the love, and the joy are in our souls. They reside within us. To cultivate our soul's deepest peace, love, and joy is a worthy task. These are not treasures of perfection. They are simply our gifts to ourselves. They will look different for each of us. Some will be hard to find, others easy. Some will require enormous effort, and others will bubble forth, unable to be contained. So we consider gratitude. As I continued to ponder those early days of the pandemic, I think it was a time that we collectively found ourselves in a place of fear, loneliness, and disruption. In the midst of this confusing time, another friend of mine had taken to sharing on social media 3 items for which he was grateful every day. Simply looking at his day and finding the good, seeking it out and stating it publicly. It was a gift to read those lists, not because they were such grandiose things that inspired much confidence in our world or our lives or our future, but because they were simple things that we could all find, things we all had access to. They were things that were ordinary, but made our days worth celebrating. These objects of our gratitude can be things that we often take for granted, but are the lifeblood that can keep us going. What we speak of and how we express ourselves to the world matters. It matters. It can change us, and it can change those around us. Listing things that fill us with gratitude reminds us that there is always hope, no matter how small. Gratitude has a funny way of growing from gratitude. In moments where it seems that all is lost, speaking of goodness can paint a clearer picture of what life can be and of what actually lies beyond our disappointment or despair. Sometimes it only takes one word to shift our gaze, to offer a view that fills our spirits with what is needed. Sometimes it only takes one word from someone else's lips to draw our attention towards the very thing we need to see, the thing that will carry us. For me, this little song, God is So Good, is about knowing that goodness exists, that goodness cares for us, and that we can find goodness in many ways and even in the smallest of things. So for all the countless ordinary things that make our lives rich, I am grateful. They are good, they are true, and they are important. And when the spectacular moments are missing or unavailable, these tiny bits of joy are invaluable. Let them join together like a patchwork quilt, scraps and colors and textures that somehow create a warmth and beauty that is unique to each of us and offers a comfort that is simply good. The fount of every blessing, I was feeling that I had experienced some real blessings. It had been a week of hearing from friends, relatives, and even strangers that something I said or did or wrote was in some way helpful or meaningful. The blessing is not that I had the wherewithal to do anything, but that there are people in this world who take the time to express gratitude for seemingly small things that have touched their lives. These people are blessings because they require us to acknowledge that how we choose to live is much more significant than we can fully realize. I suppose it's easy to say that we decide to be one way or another and much more difficult to actually adhere to any decision. But I often wonder, do we have more influence than most of us believe we have? Perhaps we cannot fully influence outcomes or circumstances, but we do view this world with lenses crafted by our beliefs, and consequently, we can choose to walk through it with a particular kind of vision. The words of this hymn are quite expressive. We're asking to be taught a melodious sonnet, tune our hearts to sing, safely arrive home, be rescued from danger. All these blessings being sourced from our divinity, we raise our Ebenezer, the stone of help, and keep our eyes fixed upon it, fettered to it, because we are prone to wander. What a lesson. Whatever we attach ourselves to, whatever we keep in our view, will determine who we are, what we do, how we react, and what we send out into the world around us. originally written in 1664 by Samuel Crossman, tell the story of Christ's experience of jeering crowds all the way to his crucifixion. What struck me about this hymn was actually the very first line, "My song is love unknown." I had to speak these words a few times because they are quite something. My song is love unknown. In these 5 words, both the depth and appreciation of a loving sacrifice is expressed. The mystery of love, the value of the unknowable, the need to voice the beauty of this love, but without fully knowing what it is, all while knowing that it is something worth singing about. There is much that is unknowable about life. There are so many ways to try to understand the unknowable, be they religious or philosophical or scientific, or some combination of facts, ideas, and perspectives. There are very few answers, and there are often many questions. We struggle to find solutions, we fail, we try again. We think we've arrived only to find cracks in our foundations and implications of our own conclusions on others that we had never considered. But there is also something about love that, in its mysterious nature, can override much of this. It is very difficult to treat someone unjustly once you look into their face and make a conscious decision to love them. Whether we express this directly or from afar, it is an act of justice, and it is a powerful tool. You'll notice that a few of the hymns I've chosen today are African American spirituals. They are rich with meaning, both obvious and hidden. This next one is like that. The words of "My Lord, what a morning" are said to represent a time when slaves would be emancipated and the trumpet would call all within the underground to challenge racism and segregation. The metaphor of falling stars may have stood for the Union's Army's campfires as beacons of freedom. These are hopeful words, words about rising up, but also about the reality of the wait before the glorious morning arrives, about an anticipated and expected celebration. Again, this was written during the pandemic, and perhaps the most disconcerting reality at that time, not unlike what we are experiencing currently, was that we simply did not know how things would unfold. We found ourselves in a space that required a great deal of patience. The kind of patience that some people have been asked to wield for all time. The kind of patience that certain groups have been asked to exhibit at every turn, with every request for answers and every attempt at resolution. For those of us who had lived lives accustomed to comfort and security, this was new. And maybe it was a time for us to begin to understand what it feels like to have to wait. Were we disappointed by our losses? Of course. Did we wish for the chaos to end quickly? Absolutely. But a part of me couldn't help think at that time that we were given a huge opportunity to reevaluate what is important, to check ourselves, to begin to understand how our impatience has impacted others, to begin to really understand what forced waiting can feel like, and proceed in a spirit of generosity that seeks to eliminate the interminable weights we have imposed on those with whom we share this world. I'm not sure we learned that lesson. Patience can teach us about others' needs as much as it can about waiting to fulfill our own. It gives us the time required to consider and process our neighbor's view. Anger. It is a complicated thing. It is often a manifestation of profound pain, frustration, and sadness. It can be the thing that spurs us to action, that requires us to remedy a wrong. But it can also be a force of evil, evil against others, evil against ourselves. We all feel it, and we all must come to terms with how it will inform our behavior. When I first wrote about the hymn, Children of the Heavenly Father, there had been a mass shooting in the United States. Another group of innocents slaughtered simply for being who they were. Slaughtered in a place that should have been free from this kind of hatred. They joined many who have found themselves the targets of hatred and have paid much too high a price. Children in their schools, groups who are defined as different, young women studying at university, worshipers of all faiths, people just walking down the street, crowds enjoying a concert or having a night out for dancing. All these lives taken because we live in a time where ideology trumps safety. Our perceived rights are more valued than our necessary responsibilities for the public good, even if it means fostering a culture of hatred and destruction. As I read the words of this hymn, they stir up many emotions because we are not always safe, and some of us are privileged to be much safer than others. This disparity can feed anger. I sometimes wonder about those who are so convinced of their religious superiority that they are unable to see that we have created a God that serves us and our needs with little concern for those outside our doors. Who are God's own? Who are her children? When we see our neighbors near and far slaughtered, do we ask ourselves what we have done to be God's mighty arms on this earth? Do we fight to ensure every nestling bird is given refuge? Are we willing to make our purpose solely that of preserving all children, old and young, in the safety of our bosom? Dona, Nobis, Pacem. These words always come to my mind when I hear of our human capacity for evil. They are a haunting request. Grant us peace. They have been spoken by countless generations, countless voices, in countless prayers. We don't definitively know the origin of this tune, but many of us find it familiar and comforting. It frames our deepest desire for peace within a simple yet lovely melody, and it offers us the opportunity to sing in canon form, creating an astounding beauty as we combine our different parts and voices at different times into a complete picture, a picture of what can emerge when we sing or work together, despite our differences. The morning I wrote this, again in the early days of the pandemic, as I sat down to find something to contemplate, this both tiny and enormous prayer came into my mind. I think that we were all looking for a special kind of peace in the midst of a situation we had never encountered before. A peace that would reassure us that we were safe and healthy. A peace that would reassure us that we would find our way home and our loved ones would do the same. A peace that would remind us that our disappointments are real, but life would carry on. A peace that would encourage us to help our neighbors and support those who were struggling. A peace that would help us to remember to breathe. This sense of needing the peace that gives us the space we require did not end as the pandemic passed. We still need to find those special things, the tiny bits of joy that open up the window of peace, if only by a crack. Seek them diligently, for losing sight of all that is beautiful in this world will surely darken our path. Share them if you can, for these bits of light will also guide those around you. Gratitude for the tiny bits of hope that build peace is essential. Generosity in providing tiny bits of hope that build peace is required. Let us grant peace to those who we meet and accept it when it is given. Let us sing the songs of peace with whatever language and notes we have found. Sing it loud or soft, but sing it without end. These hymns are pieces of a musical and spiritual history, fragments of those who came before, remnants of their lives, their wisdom, their creativity, and their experiences. A record of where we've been and a guide for where we're going, a means of understanding both our flaws and our mistakes, a source of interesting challenges, musically, intellectually, and spiritually. I've come to understand that the written word has relevance that can span time and place, complications of history, and evolution of confessions and creeds, and that it is a dynamic force, not necessarily stuck in its original intent, but always offering opportunities to find more or less than others before me or those yet to come. These words have motion. They stand still only in our resistance to reading them with multiple lenses. As I conclude, I leave you with what these living hymns have given me, the ways in which I wish to receive them with gratitude. I am thankful for these songs we sing. I am thankful for those with whom I regularly get to sing them. I am thankful for those who taught them to me first. For those throughout time and place have and continue to create this treasure, I thank you. You are not forgotten. Your gift is received into my open arms, my eager ears, and my vulnerable heart. I am thankful for the gift that music is, giving me a place to think, struggle, learn, share, weep, and soar. For all the blessings of the light, and beneath almighty wings, we sing in thanks. you. Thanks. Okay, thank you. Thank you.